Imagine sailing across a vast, unforgiving ocean for months, leaving everything you've ever known behind. You're heading for a new world, a new life, filled with promises of opportunity and freedom. This was the dream for over 100 English settlers in the late 16th century. But their dream would become one of history's most enduring nightmares. They established a colony on Roanoke Island, off the coast of modern-day North Carolina, only to vanish from the face of the earth, leaving behind a ghost town and a single, cryptic clue. This is the story of the lost colony of Roanoke. Our story begins in 1587. England, under Queen Elizabeth I, is eager to establish a permanent foothold in North America to challenge the dominance of Spain. So Walter Raleigh, a dashing court favorite, spearheads the effort. After a couple of failed military expeditions, a new plan is hatched, a civilian colony. This time, they would bring families, men, women, and children to build a lasting English community. John White, an artist and cartographer who had been on previous voyages, was appointed governor. Among the colonists was his own daughter, Eleanor Dare, and her husband, Ananias. They were expecting their first child. In July 1587, about 115 colonists landed on Roanoke Island. It was a challenging start. Their supplies were dwindling, and relations with some of the local Native American tribes were already strained due to the aggressive actions of the previous English expeditions. Despite the hardships, there was a glimmer of hope. On August 18th, Eleanor Dare gave birth to a daughter, Virginia Dare, the very first English child born in the New World. It was a symbol of a new beginning, but this hope was fragile. As weeks turned into months, the colony's situation grew desperate. They needed more supplies, more tools, and more people if they were to survive the coming winter. Governor John White made a difficult decision. He would sail back to England to gather reinforcements and supplies. He promised to return as quickly as possible, within a few months at most. Before he left, he and the colonists agreed on a contingency plan. If they were forced to move, they would carve their new location into a tree or post. If they were in distress, they would carve a Maltese cross above the name. With this understanding, White departed, leaving his daughter, his newborn granddaughter, and the entire colony behind. He had no idea he was seeing them for the last time. John White's journey back to England was the beginning of a long and frustrating delay. When he arrived, he found his country on the brink of war. The mighty Spanish Armada was preparing to invade, and every available ship, including his, was commandeered for the defense of the realm. White was trapped, helpless, as months stretched into years. He tried desperately to arrange a relief mission, but his efforts were repeatedly thwarted by war, politics, and pirate attacks. 3 long, agonizing years passed before he could finally secure a passage back to Roanoke. In August of 1590, on his granddaughter, Virginia's 3rd birthday, John White finally returned. As his ship approached the island, he and his crew fired cannons and played English tunes, hoping for a joyful response. But all they heard was an eerie silence. As they went ashore, a dreadful sense of foreboding filled the air. The settlement was gone. The houses had been carefully dismantled, not violently torn down. The entire area was fortified with a high palisade, or fence, suggesting they had been preparing for something. But there were no signs of a struggle, no bodies, no skeletons. It was as if the 115 colonists had simply evaporated. White and his men searched frantically for any sign of his family and the others. Then, Typhoon, Italiano, carved into one of the main posts of the fort was a single, stark word: Croatoan. White's heart must have leaped. Croatoan was the name of a nearby island, now known as Hatteras Island, and it was the home of a friendly Native American tribe led by a man named He looked closer. There was no Maltese cross carved above the word. This was the signal. They weren't in danger. They had simply relocated. A wave of relief washed over him. They were alive. They were on Croatoan Island. But just as hope was rekindled, fate intervened once more. A powerful storm began to brew, threatening to smash their ships against the treacherous coastline. The ship's captain, anxious about losing his vessel and crew, refused to risk the short journey south. He ordered the anchor cables cut, and they were forced back out to sea, leaving the mystery unsolved. unsolved. John White, heartbroken and defeated, was forced to sail away. never to see the shores of America again. He would die in England, never knowing the true fate of his family and his lost colony. And so, the mystery began. What did Croatoan mean? And what really happened to the settlers? For centuries, the most accepted theory was the one John White himself believed the colonists moved to Croatoan Island and assimilated with the local population. Evidence seems to support this. Decades later, subsequent English explorers reported hearing tales from Native Americans, of people with light hair and gray eyes living among them, people who could read from a book and who were descended from the Roanoke settlers. Archaeological work on Hatteras Island in recent years has uncovered European artifacts from the right time period, suggesting some English presence. It's a peaceful, almost hopeful conclusion. The colonists didn't perish. They simply became part of a new community. But there are other, darker possibilities. Another theory suggests the colonists were attacked. While relations with the Croatoan tribe were good, other tribes in the region were hostile, and with good reason. The settlers' arrival had brought disease and conflict. Could a coalition of tribes have seen the colonists as a threat and wiped them out? Some Spanish documents mention rumors of the slaughter of the English settlers. However, the lack of bodies and the carefully dismantled settlement don't quite fit with the scene of a violent massacre. If they were attacked, why would they take the time to pack up their homes? A third theory points to disease and starvation. The settlers were ill-equipped for the harsh realities of the New World. It's possible that a devastating epidemic swept through the colony, or that they simply starved to death after a failed harvest. Perhaps the survivors were too weak to journey to Croatoan, and the carving was just a desperate, unfulfilled plan. Or maybe they attempted the journey and perished at sea or on the way. Another idea is that the colony split up. Maybe some went to Croatoan, while another group attempted to move inland, deeper into the mainland of North Carolina. A stone, allegedly found in the 1930s and known as the Dare Stone, claimed to tell this story, but it was later widely dismissed as a probable forgery. So why, after more than 400 years, does the mystery endure? The simple answer is a lack of conclusive evidence. The 3-year delay in John White's return was critical. By the time anyone came looking, the trail had gone cold. The acidic soil and humid climate of coastal North Carolina are also terrible for preserving artifacts and human remains. Anything left behind would have disintegrated long ago. We are left with tantalizing clues, but no definitive proof. The story of the lost colony is like a historical puzzle with most of the pieces missing. The word Croatoan echoes through history, a ghostly whisper from a vanished people. It represents hope, a destination, and a profound, unanswered question. Were they absorbed into a new culture, finding a different kind of life in the new world? Or did they meet a tragic end, victims of conflict, disease, or the unforgiving wilderness? We may never know for certain. The fate of those 115 men, women, and children, including the infant Virginia Dare, remains America's oldest, unsolved mystery. Thank you for joining us on this journey into the past. If you found this story as fascinating as we do, please like this video and subscribe to our channel for more historical mysteries. See you next time.